Hello, Eco Explorers. We're going to continue our talk today about how to reduce the amount of waste that we produce. Olivia gave a great suggestion, which is to be very careful to buy products with less packaging. Uh, and there's several ways to do that. If you have two different things, like let's say oatmeal, for example, you can buy it in those little individual packs where uh, each serving size is in its own wrapper, or you can buy one large container and then maybe transfer that into smaller containers that reduce the amount of waste because you can reuse those containers. And you can also, buying in bulk would be another example of that. So there's lots of different ways that we can reduce. So what are some other ways that we can reduce? Well, I have um, if we stop using as much single-use products, so this is a single-use plastic, and if I were to buy 100 of these to keep my stuff in, and every single time I am done with whatever's in that container, I throw it away, that's going to produce a lot of waste. But I can reduce that by using a container that I can use over and over and over again. I use tons of containers in the garden to hold my seeds. And these are all, I don't put them in Ziploc bags where I'm going to use a Ziploc bag and then throw it out. I use reusable containers. So when the seeds in this container are all done, I just wash it out and I can put other seeds in that container. So that's going to reduce the amount of packaging that I'm using. Tupperware is another way to do that. So using Tupperware that you can use over and over again is a great way to reduce waste. I have like newspapers, instead of getting the actual paper, reading that online, although sometimes it's kind of fun to actually have the paper. Miss Carrie actually loves to have the paper. But then I compost it, so it makes me feel better about it. And we'll talk about composting in a different, my gardening class at a different time. When I get little ice cream containers, this is supposed to be a single use. Once the ice cream is done, you're supposed to just throw it out. But if I reuse it, which is what we're going to talk about more in later classes, then I'm also reducing waste because this is now Tupperware. Yay! Which I can use over and over and over again. And another way I can reduce waste is by driving less. I can walk or ride my bike or scooter to places instead of driving and using gas. So that's one way to reduce. I can, instead of turning up the heater, I can just put on a sweater. Or instead of turning on a cooler, I can just take off the sweater and open my windows and let the air flow through. We don't have coolers in Pacific Grove because the weather is so temperate, so we're already doing some things to reduce the amount of waste we put into the environment because we don't even have coolers. Some places have to have coolers because it gets so hot it would be dangerous. But even they, at certain times of the year, instead of just always having that cooler on, they can say, hey, it's pretty nice outside. Instead of turning the cooler on, I'm going to open a window. And here in Pacific Grove, there are many times when it gets really cold. And I challenge you to, instead of turning up that heater, just put on some extra clothes. That's going to help our environment. So there's lots of things. I have my little list here. Oh yeah, turning off lights is important. So when you're not in a room, make sure that the lights are off in that room. If you're brushing your teeth, make sure that you turn the water off while you're not using that water because that's reducing the amount of water that you're having to use, and it takes energy to get that water into our house. And oftentimes in California, we need to save our water for when we really, really need it, right? When we actually need it to clean our toothbrush and get it wet in the first place. We don't need it running the whole time while we're brushing our teeth. So these are some ways that we can help conserve energy for our environment. So your eco challenge for this week is I want you to walk through downtown, especially if you're able to go to the farmer's market. But if you can't, walk through downtown, look at all of our local shops, and think about how buying local or buying products that don't have to come from far away because they're made right here close to where we live is a way where you can reduce your amount of waste. So think about that. Talk with your family. Go for a walk through downtown. Maybe talk to a couple of business owners or people at the farmers market, and think about different ways that buying local also reduces waste. Thank you, Eco Explorers. We'll see you next time.